Okay, hello, welcome. This is I'm Gregory. Welcome to an episode of A Star Once Fallen. This is a learn to play adventure, and it's using the Open Legend role playing game system. And you're watching this here on my channel 1 in 20 D&D, and I have some really great players joining us tonight. I have Michelle and Reed and Tyler are going to be our guinea pigs this evening. I'm learning and they're learning at the same time. I think with this one, we're all experienced role playing game players, gamers, and whatnot. But this will be a fun new experience. So, with that being said, I'm gonna get right into this. We're gonna start with our character creation. I think I have something to read to you guys right off the bat. I do. All right, so. We're going to create characters, so start thinking about what you would like and a little bit of background. And here is what I want to read to you. You thought the job would be easy. Hitch a ride on a trading vessel, protect it from pirates, and earn a few gold and a free trip to the City of Sails. All in a day's work for an adventurer like you. But there's not much your swords and arrows and spells can do against a typhoon. You don't remember much: the flash of lightning, the howl of wind, the doomful crack of the mast as it split down the middle. But one memory stands out perfectly in your mind. Traveling aboard the ship was a fortune teller, an old hag that was great aunt to the captain or something like that. On the night before the typhoon struck, she told your fortune, and her words are emblazoned in your memory. A star once fallen upon the land brings sword and axe and spell at hand. For planted deep like evil seed, it fills heart, soul, and mind with greed. Shoulders broad and voices tiny, ceaseless war of clashing armies, in sleep and beauty whispers well, but her worm-tongue song is ever fell. A royal staff in hands upright shall end the long eternal fight. But try you might, and try you may, the star will rise another day. So with that, let us get right into character creation. Now, Michelle and I had a quick conversation before the game started. We're doing this for fun, and she wanted to play something kind of off the wall as far as a race. So while they get started with getting their characters together, I will mention that Michelle is going to be playing oh gosh, I need the what did we call it, Michelle? What did you name it? The race?
Hedonic.
Cadonic.
Hedonic.
Cadonic, which is a cat person. And her words to me were, think of Puss in Boots or something along those lines. So
So
uh,
like smaller than a
it's
Khajiit?
yes, it is not like a big
About
like
the size of
tiger
me.
size. It's more like a gnome size. So
Gotcha.
standing up probably stands somewhere between your knees and your waist if you're an average sized human.
Pretty much.
Um, and
It basically could pass for a big house cat. You know.
I
But he
love it.
walks on two legs.
Yeah. And there are some basically. I mean, if you want, you could just read what I sent you, or whatever. That's pretty much how I see it. Maybe not the whole thing, but just like the top portion.
I can do that. Oh, you can do it. Go for it. I'll take care of something else while you do that.
All right. I'm just gonna pull it up here. Um, so basically, I just was thinking, that would be cool if could just do something like that.
This is really
Let me.
strange. My handouts appear to be missing.
Okay, sorry. Let me pull this up. Here it is. Ah, got it. Here we go. All right. So, our race. Okay, Cadonic, commonly referred to as cat creepers in folklore. We hate that name, cat creepers. Kind of like a derogatory thing. Very, very rare for people to have seen a Cadonic. So, most likely that people are made fun of or accused of being crazy if they've seen one. Think of Puss in Boots, like a talking cat, but about the size of a gnome. So, one could pass as a big house cat. I can walk on all fours like a cat, but I prefer to walk on two. One of the attributes that I have, since every character or race, I should say, has an attribute, is that I can jump 10 feet vertically or 15 feet horizontally. If I run, it'll be 15 feet vertically or 30 feet horizontally, and that's just once per day. This skill, along with our intelligence, is something that makes us uniquely different from our other furry counterparts. So, on my front paws, I have opposable thumbs. This allows me to play musical instruments or hold weapons. Most of my race likes to stay hidden, but some will pose as house cats to spy on different races and report back the info. Cadonics live in the forest mostly with other big cats. We see them as inferior because they can't speak, but as good allies for battle and defensive purposes. We speak common and what is lovingly referred to as cat speech. This allows us to communicate with different type of cat-related beasts and pose easily as house pets. Doesn't necessarily mean that the cats will automatically talk to us. They're more likely than not probably not to talk, but maybe with like persuasion or something, whatever the DM decides, then maybe they can say something. And the saying something could be either a full-on conversation or it could be like one word or something. It's totally up to the DM. Cadonics don't lick themselves clean. They take baths like regular humans. Cadonics have very, very short, fine hair. They almost never shed, and their tongues are shaped like cat tongues, but they have soft human tongues. They have short snouts as well. So, with a little bit of magic here and there, they can kind of pass off as gnomes if they want to, but most of them don't. Most of them just pass off as regular, house cats. Our bodies are a lot like cats with the two differences. One, I said it earlier, the thumbs, and the second one is our male Cadonics don't have barbs, if you know what I mean. No crazy cat screaming in the bedroom kind of thing. That doesn't happen. And the rest of that pertains to my character, so I'm not going to say anything more than that.
Okay. Well, there you go. So we're doing our own custom race for this. On the other for the other characters, do you guys read and Tyler, do you have an idea? You can do human, dwarf, elf. It's not like other game systems maybe right now where you think where you get like big bonuses for your race. It's really pretty simple stuff usually. So if you wanted to do anything other than human, let me know.
I was thinking about like maybe a dwarf.
Dwarf, perfect. All right, so dwarfs. Let me see. I'll see if you get. Let's see. Dwarfs. You have the warrior's code. As a veteran warrior, you command respect even from foes. Once per session, you can use this ability to cause an enemy or a group of enemies to extend special concessions or favorable treatment towards you via an unspoken warrior's code. You also have stone sense. While you're underground, you may fail to find what you're looking for, but you can never be truly lost. So you can always find your way back to the entrance. And then Dwarven Resilience is once per game session, you can automatically succeed on a Fortitude action roll of difficulty level equal to you or less than your Fortitude. So if that comes to play, I'll let you know. And we're going to kind of leave that stuff off this table for today because we're just learning, so we're going to try to keep this as simple as possible.
Gotcha.
Reed, did you have an idea for your character
Yeah,
or
I
race?
was maybe like a halfling or something.
Sweet, the halflings are cool.
Just a whole bunch of midgets traveling together.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe a goblin, but nah, that's good.
That would be interesting. I'm going to give you guys a template if you want to put your attributes into the Roll20. It's a very straightforward, like super duper simple. Let's see. All right, so there we go. 1, 2, 3. I will give this to you momentarily. All right, so here's Michelle. In Michelle's journal can be edited by Michelle. Save. Right, there you go, Michelle. Here comes Tyler. Alright, so now the way this works is the first thing you're going to do is pick your attributes. Your attributes are the following: physical, mental, social, and supernatural. Now I sent you guys a PDF. I don't know if you guys took a look through that. If not, it's okay. Let me tell you what they are now, and you guys can figure out. Well, let's actually take a step back. What? All right, Tyler, you're set, and here you go, Reed. What types of class types, like, were you thinking? In other words, like, I think, Reed, you had mentioned you were thinking like some kind of a rogue or something along those lines.
Yeah, sneaky, steely.
A sneak thief. I love it.
I was thinking a warrior, like a paladin or something like that.
Fantastic. Paladin works great. Right.
Bard for me.
And a bard. Hey, that'd be awesome. That'd be a perfect, nice balance. All right, and there's that should have saved as. Whoops, I don't think I saved it. Did it with Michelle? Michelle. Let me try this again. Here we go. Edit. Save. Edit. Oh, I see why. Because I didn't change this. There you go, Reed. This is now you have a character sheet in the game if you want to use it. Feel free to just write the stuff on paper. All right, so for a paladin, okay, so you have. So here's how this works. You guys have ability attributes, okay, and you can pick essentially one of these attributes listed sets listed below. It's either and actually, if you look in your handouts, I'm going to show this to all of you guys right now. In fact, it'll make it way easier. So let me make sure this is in everybody's journal. All players, save, show to players. Alright, there you go. Perfect. So, first of all, this is some player info. If you click on it, you can zoom in to see some of the attribute listings. Now, this is where we're going to start. So, on the bottom right, you'll see there's a set of numbers that have like 5, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2. And that would be like a specialized hero. And then you could go to like a well-rounded hero or a jack of all trades. Okay, so essentially you're going to want to pick one of those three and then assign those attributes to the list of attributes. Now, everybody can essentially, you can kind of use any attribute, but when you're trained in it, it gives you what's called attribute dice. So the way this works, that's slightly different than maybe some other games you might have played, is that when you
Whoa.
So, oh my gosh, technical difficulties. Mic check, mic check. we had a little bit of a mix up there, and yeah. So, anywho, we're back here. Here's what happened. We had a glitch in the audio recording, my audio recording, because my mic cut out. So I'm going to just do a recap of what happened after the madness of that moment. And here's what we did. Finished making out our characters, and Michelle created a Cadonic bard, Cadonic being a kind of a race that she came up with, and bard, I'm using these terms loosely, it's just how she organized her attributes. The Reed ended up making a halfling rogue essentially, and Tyler did a dwarven paladin. So those are kind of the three characters they came up with. They finished out their ability scores, and we got right into it. Here is the map that we start out on, and I wish I could let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and read Well, maybe I shouldn't read it. Well, should I read it? Should I read it? I can read the introduction so that you get the same feeling that the players do when the game starts, and then I will just kind of fill in the details and do a recap of what happened, so we're ready to go for the next video. The next video will have the actual regular recording with the whole show good to go. So here's what happened. You awaken one by one with the gritty taste of sand between your teeth and the briny smell of the sea in your hair. As you regain your wits and stand to your feet, you can see the sun setting behind a distant mountain like a golden crown being set atop the head of a regal king. The beach you stand on is littered with wreckage, though little appears salvageable. A few of your weapons, some armor, a couple days' rations, and maybe a length of rope or two. In a daze, you fall back on your survivalist instincts and begin gathering what you need while you survey the surrounding land. Verdant jungles, Herculean cliffs, and cascading waterfalls decorate this island, which might be a tropical paradise if only you weren't stranded here. Miles off to the south, you barely have time to spy a great stone wall, as of a city, before the sun finally hides behind the mountains. Just as darkness falls, you hear a panicked cry from the jungle not far off. The voice is high in pitch, like a child's, though foreign in tongue. Whatever the language, the meaning is clear. Someone is in trouble. So the first thing I had them do, just for interest, is that I had them actually roll D100s to see how much length of rope they could find in the wreckage here. And they did that, and actually did really well. They ended up with, all told, about over 200 feet of rope, like 80 feet, 80 feet, or 83 feet, 86 feet, or 81, 86, and 40 something, or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it was really great. They rolled pretty well. So they each had a nice long length of rope to use from their salvage, along with their weapons and armor. They heard this voice. The paladin decided he would go and investigate. He went charging off into the woods. And here is what they encountered. They found a group of 4 of these bat-like creatures, and actually they are like monkey bats, functionally, and they were attacking this fifth creature that was in they knocked him off the vines. He was kind of a little lizard-like man swinging through the vines and fell into the quicksand. So they decided to help the lizard guy out. The lizard guy was clearly trying to communicate with them, and he was screaming and basically trying to get their attention, whereas the monkey bats were just clearly kind of animalistic and just attacking, and they were able to very quickly they dispatched the monkey bats. Essentially, they chased them off. They incapacitated one, then they incapacitated another, and it was kind of they knocked a third. This one here in the middle was hanging from a vine, trying to pull the little lizard man out of the quicksand, and they had an amazing shot with a hand crossbow and cut the vine, and that monkey bat fell in the quicksand. So basically, the monkey bats decided this was way more than they wanted to handle and decided to take off into the forest. And they helped this little guy out and tried to communicate with him, but it was kind of challenging at first. So they were kind of slowly developing a way to communicate. It was pretty clear that he wanted them to go with him, and they surmised that he was trying to take them somewhere. So they all decided to go. I'm going to go ahead and bring you back to the main map and show you the actual the island that they're on. And once after spending a little bit of time with him, they were kind of able to start understanding what he was saying slowly but surely. At least not all of them, but the rogue was able to kind of slowly determine, like, I think they're saying this, I think they're saying that, and after a while, the after a while longer, the bard actually started to get a little bit of an understanding as well. Let me reveal the whole map here for you guys, and then there you go. So our intrepid heroes are on Starfall Island. Our intrepid adventurers, whether they're heroes or not, I guess remains to be seen. So they're on Fall Island, and you can see where their here you can see here where their shipwreck site is, and they kind of found that little guy here, followed him back to his village. Now they turn out to be what are called the Wapuni, and it's a lizard-like tribe. They only come up to about your knee. They're about like 2 feet tall, and the Wapuni chief talked with them. He actually rewarded them with some poison that they use. It's kind of like a stunning poison, like it slows you down essentially. And so they have a vial of poison that they acquired, and they got some information. They learned a little bit about like what's going on with the island. They found out that there's a little bit of a war that's been going on, and they call it the War Without Beginning. And there is there's a crystal. So essentially, what happened was a meteor fell onto this island about 100 years ago and started creating chaos. And then about 5 years ago, something started going awry with the raids getting more organized and more violent. This war has become very heated, and then all of a sudden, a few years ago, or even maybe just a few months ago, the other tribes, which are called the Wapungo, which are these kind of like barbaric humanoids, or humans essentially, barbaric humans. They started kind of backing off of their raids and their attacks on the Wapuni. So they also found out that there is something called the Scepter of Kings that the Wapuni chieftain Bik wants to have, because he believes if he had it, then he could defeat the Wapungo. They also learned that there's this there's a little bit about the Dragon's Maw, which is a mountain on this island, and it's pretty visible from anywhere on the island. And they also learned a little bit about Big Head, that people they kind of don't go beyond here anymore, because the Wapuni anyway don't go beyond here because it's something is afoot. It's kind of dangerous. The Wapuni king Bik told them about the ruins, and that's where the Scepter of Kings is. And they decided that before they would try to help this guy out, they'd very wisely, the paladin decided he wanted to get a little more information first and not take sides without having a better understanding of what was really going on. So they kind of made a tentative, kind of just like a neutral party sort of thing. We're not going to cause any trouble, and they had they basically had an understanding, let's say, with the Wapuni. So the Wapuni kind of let them be, let them go on their way. They did see a mining party heading towards the Great Chasm as they left the village. When they left the village, they made it up to about just on the other side of the bridge here, and then they had to camp for the night. While they were camping, the rogue had a vision, and I'm gonna use the character names here. It'll probably be a little easier. So the rogue's name is Falco Greenbuckle. Our dwarven paladin is Gitgrot Brightbeard, and our intrepid Cadonic is Koyi Mittens Adasser. So she goes by Mittens, and Falco had a dream, and it was this like beautiful woman in a wedding gown, and she kind of told him like, help, I'm trapped, and please set me free, kind of thing. And it was confusing at first, and he kind of like, he didn't really say anything about it to the other party members, but it was obvious. The let's see, Gitgrot was on watch and saw Falco was kind of having a nightmare, and he actually woke up like saying a name, which was Asha. So after that happened, they finished making their way to the Wapungo camp. They got greeted by some warriors outside, about 4 warriors outside of the camp, and they kind of had just a simple exchange. They because of the the dwarf having like being an honorable warrior, they gave him the respect of that and said that the party could keep their weapons as long as they didn't cause any trouble. So they met with the chief of the Wapungo, and his deal is that he wants the mace, the scepter of kings, as well. So he gave them kind of their side of the story, let's say, and told them a bit about their what they call. Let's see what they. Let me find the page here so I can make sure I'm speaking correctly. Here we go. They met Chief Bloodfist, and Chief Bloodfist told them a little more about the Dragon's Maw, and they've kind of surmised at this point that it's probably a volcano. That there's a what do you call it? There's a hold on, I will read it. It's easier that way. And give me a second. Here we go. I will edit some of this crud out because you all don't need to hear me being a goofball. There is a prophecy. So there was like an old, like a Wapuni shaman told them first about this prophecy. It says, when a king lays claim to Starfall Island, the dragon will spit flame once again. So at first, Gitgrot was totally convinced it was a dragon. He's like, oh my god, there's a dragon on this island. They've kind of since then figured that maybe it's a little more of a metaphor. So especially once they talked to the Wapungo, they got a little bit better, clearer understanding or clearer thought about it. They also found out that there are some cannibals on the island. They are distant relatives of the Wapungo, and they kind of hang out here in the Cascading Caverns. They have recently started raiding, like taking more of the Wapungo. So like tribesmen are disappearing, and they assume that it's these cannibals. Again, Chief Bloodfist wants the Scepter of Kings, so that he's kind of tasked this group like with the same thing. Like, and he said they have their own idea. They call it the War of Honor because the Wapungo believe that the Wapungo were the first ones to go to the crystal in the Great Chasm, and they call it the Great Star, and they feel like the Wapunis were being punished for whatever reason, and we're going to share the bounty of the Great Star, but then the Wapuni started attacking, and they created the problem. So they were ambushed. The first excursion coming out of the chasm was ambushed. So they say that the Wapuni started the war, and it's now a war of honor. They also found out that the tribe is kind of divided. It seems that Chief Bloodfist has been acting kind of strange, and more importantly, he hasn't taken a wife. He's actually been the chief for like 5 years or so, and he hasn't taken a wife. And according to their custom, this is not okay. And he made a big deal about it. And at some point in their conversation with Chief Bloodfist, Falco revealed that he mentioned Asha's name, and as soon as Chief Bloodfist heard Asha's name, he dismissed his guards and his advisors and had a very kind of secret, private conversation with the adventurers, and revealed that he has been waiting for his bride, Asha, to come to the island and be his queen. Well, this is kind of strange. They didn't quite know what to make of that, and when they left, again, they kind of created a little neutral agreement with the Wapungos, like we're not going to get in your way, and they didn't really commit to getting the Scepter of Kings, but they also didn't deny getting. They didn't say they wouldn't get the Scepter of Kings, so they kind of left it at that, and were free to go as well from the Wapungo. And so what they did is left the Wapungo camp early the next morning. They spent the night with the Wapungo, rested, got fed, got a few little bits of supplies as far as food and such. And the next morning they were leaving the camp, but they weren't taking the main kind of trail. They kind of headed out on their own, and happened across about a mile or something outside of town. They or quarter mile outside of the village rather. Somewhere outside the village they found a kind of a clear lake or pond, and right next to it was a man, like seeming to have a wake out of a dream, and basically like crying out Asha's name again. Well, it turned out they kind of spied on him. They decided not to engage. They find out that they could see clearly that it was Chief Bloodfist. So apparently he left sometime either overnight or early in the morning, actually probably overnight, and came out here for whatever reason and slept beside this pool, and woke up shouting Asha, similarly to how Falco had done that. So they kind of don't know what to, they don't know what to take of it at this point. They're it's something they filed in their memory bank, so to speak. They decided now that once they kind of saw, they got the story from the Wapuni, they got the story. The Wapungos speak a similar dialect. They're maybe a little more guttural and slow speaking than the kind of high pitched of the Wapuni. So they were able to sort of piece together the language. And again, at this point, they're speaking it very kind of rudimentally, but at least they're getting the point. They came back up to the bridge, camped out here at the bridge, and then the following morning left for I think that's what happened. Maybe they didn't. They might have made it to the bridge and over the bridge by midday, and then we're heading east here across the north side of the Treetown Forest. And they actually had another encounter they chose to avoid. What they saw was off in the distance a little ways. They saw what appeared to be the Wapunis and the Wapungos like in a little skirmish, and there was like a handful of Wapungos and maybe a dozen or something of the Wapunis, but like pretty evenly matched. Like for every one Wapungo that might fall, there would be 3 Wapuni that would fall. So even though they were kind of outnumbered, it seems like the two forces are kind of balanced because of the number of the Wapunis compared to the strength of the Wapungos. So these guys are all very tribal. The Wapungos use like stone hatchets is their kind of like weapon of choice. The Wapuni will use either a blowgun or a wooden spear as their weapon of choice. So it's very, very what do you call it? Very, very limited cultural, like, technological rather, not cultural, limited technological advancement. So basically, they found out that these two tribes they're kind of limited in their technology. The other important factor that I should mention, actually, they watched the skirmish, and again decided they wouldn't engage. Okay, the skirmish happened somewhere over here right after they crossed the bridge. They decided they wouldn't engage. They literally felt like this is not our war. This is not anything we need to get involved with. Or actually, more specifically, they decided they're like that we don't want to pick. If we get involved with this skirmish, we're going to be forced to pick sides, and they really didn't want to do that quite yet. They kind of want to get more information, which is, I think, as a DM or as my personal opinion, I think is really smart. I was really impressed with how everybody was role playing, and the decisions they were making were awesome. So it was a lot of fun. I'm giving you just kind of the facts and figures. I wish we had the great audio from all the fun moments that happened during the game, but c'est la vie. That's what happens. You do have technical difficulties, and I'm learning. I learned a lesson from it, and I don't believe it'll ever happen again. So they made it over to about here. They just kind of crossed the river. Actually, probably somewhere around here. They crossed the river, camped out again, and then headed towards the ancient ruins. Then what they found when they got to the ancient ruins is a giant temple. Well, no, they found a giant wall. It's like 40 feet-ish tall is what I said, and so it's definitely taller than you can see inside of easily. It's kind of ancient, but it's still standing. There are two like giant double doors. They figured after doing a little bit of inspection that the doors were probably too strong. They would need to be much stronger, let's say, in order for them to push the doors open. I'm sorry, I'm trying to adjust the picture here. Okay, so they spent the night not too far from where they originally were shipwrecked, and came to this giant wall. They were heading towards the ancient ruins, or this temple, or whatever it happens to be. They found a giant wall outside the city, and really couldn't see anything in the city at all because they're on this island, and this wall is like 40 feet tall, about approximately 40 feet tall, and there were these two giant double doors, and they realized that they probably couldn't get through the double doors without a huge feat of strength that most likely none of them were up to, had the might to achieve it. And so they decided to use all the extra rope they had. They were able to make a successful climb up the front of the wall. Gitgrot decided he would scale the wall. He climbed up there with his rope, dropped it back down to the party. They were able to get up and over the wall fairly easily without too much of a... Actually, the rolls that night were really fantastic. Everybody was doing pretty well. No real critical fumble fails except for one, which was early on when they were fighting the monkey bats. One of the daggers that was thrown went skewed off into the forest, and they had to retrieve that. That was Mittens had to go pick up her dagger that went flying out into the brush. Other than that, their rolls were pretty solid, either very high or just average, and they were doing quite well, and so they easily scaled the building. Nobody got injured or fell or anything like that. Or not the building, they easily scaled the wall, and no one got injured or anything. They decided to tie one side of the rope to a tree, kind of like a little bit out from the base of the wall, and then do the same thing, anchor it on the other side, so they could kind of like so that the rope would stay almost like almost kind of like this, where it was like you can imagine like they were making a triangle or something if you use the ground and the two ropes as the sides, and left the rope there so that if they need to, they can get back out again relatively easily. So then they started wandering through the city, and it's pretty massive. It's quite a ways from one side of the city to the other just to get to what they saw was a ziggurat kind of down to the south. It's a giant kind of, you can think of like a Mayan temple sort of looking thing, and they're kind of being quiet. They were trying to be cautious and perceptive as they were heading over there. The halfling rogue Falco was kind of keeping to the shadows as best he could, and when they got about halfway through, they encountered a golem that climbed up out of the rocks. Had been lying there for so long. It just seemed like it was part of the rubble of the ruins in this city, and they kind of got right alongside of it, and all of a sudden it activated and stood up right next to them, and that's where we left things off. It was a little bit of a cliffhanger there. We're at that moment of, oh my goodness, we have a giant stone golem, 20 feet tall stone golem or whatever. What do we do? And that's where we left it off. It was a great adventure, and everyone was phenomenal. The role playing was just top notch. Everyone did very well in their class role, so to speak, but it's not really anything extraordinary. It was a lot of very good dialogue actually between the players and the NPCs, and kind of sleuth work. They were like detectives, and it went great. So it was a fun game. I'm very pleased with the system. I like how the attributes work. I like how the dice rolling works. Exploding dice is interesting and exciting, and so far so good. So that's the quick recap of the week 1 recap of our session. We're gonna take a break here for this weekend, and then we'll be back. So we're having a 2-week time gap between the play sessions, and I will record the next play session, and when I record it, it will be flawless. no more technical difficulties. Anyway, hey, this is Gregory. 1 in 20 D&D is the name of the YouTube channel. Thank you for stopping by, and you can find me on Twitch as well. I will have that up shortly. I haven't really started doing anything on Twitch yet, but I will be streaming on Twitch very soon, and you can check me out there as well. So 1 in 20 D&D, and thank you for stopping by. I hope to see you at the table. I hope you'll keep coming back to our virtual table, and please keep rolling 20s.